stream it through YouTube. And that's what's being facilitated right now, as we always do. So watch what you say.
All right.
Excellent. Excellent. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our June session here for the CCCIC. Just first order of business is to call the meeting to order. And with that, I will take a quick roll. Matt Carroll. Susan Infeld. See Susan.
Now, like 40 grand though.
Sorry, here.
All these going.
Okay. If you could please mute your phones or your systems if you're not speaking. Thank you. Brian Hall.
Here.
Michael Chambers. Richard Perry. I see Richard. Richard was here. Hold off on that. Come back. Michelle Pomerantz. Michael Obie. Suzanne Hamilton. I see Suzanne.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Hey, Jeff, I'm here.
Good morning.
Thank you. Who was that? Matt? Sarah
Yeah,
Parks.
that's me.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Sarah Parks Jackson. I see Sarah.
Present, good morning.
Thank you. Anthony Tavro. See you.
Here.
Thank you. Excellent. Going back, Richard, you out there? Richard Perry was out there, so just note that in the minutes if you could. Okay. Over to the agenda. First order of business. Late yesterday, we sent out the minutes from our April 26th annual meeting. If I could seek a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Matt Carroll.
Thank you, Matt. And second, I think Suzanne, I saw your hand go up.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raise your hands. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Same sign. Nope, sounds good. We have approved the minutes from our previous meeting. Next order of business is, so we've got a couple of loan presentations, and just to understand how this is going to be facilitated today, each presentation will be done separately. We will take a motion to go into executive session as needed, and we will vote individually to go into session. At that point, we will go into a breakout room, if you will, have our discussions, and then re-enter the public forum. And we will do that for each loan presentation as needed. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping. With that, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me see if I can get this shared up. Are people seeing this? Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
It's up. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, great. Okay, terrific. Great. Well, good morning, everybody. Glad to quote see you today. Interesting dynamics. This came about pretty not too long ago, and so we'll see if we can make all of this mechanically work. I think we're off to a great start. Wonderful to have you back after our annual meeting. Before us today are two economic development loans that we are considering. The Department of Development has originated these loans, put the packages together, spoken with the borrowers and the respective other lenders, and we are at the we are staged now where we can bring two deals to you at the board of CIC in hopes to get these recommended for approval by the respective legislative bodies that the loans will go to next. So today's first deal is something called the LLC moniker is 2915 Detroit Avenue LLC. This is the real estate entity that is doing the project called the Vitrolite Building Project. It is going to be the home base and centralized headquarters and multifaceted set of uses for the group called Harness Collective, which is an overall real estate, sorry about that, entity or operator that is assembling what is going to be the future home of some of the subsidiaries that they have, basically Harness Cycle and a couple of others, and then a series of other businesses that are going to be utilizing this building after it's all renovated and ready to launch. So I'm just going to kind of read this script, and then we'll just proceed slide by slide with the guts of this loan analysis. So again, as I said, the real estate operator Harness Collective is planning the purchase and redevelopment of the former Vitrolite building at 2915 Detroit Avenue on Cleveland's near west side. That LLC will activate this historic structure, creating 6 new leasable spaces for businesses and activities that will support the well-being of this neighborhood. Services provided are health and wellness focused. They're improving the lives of the immediate community, folks in the immediate community, and all those who patron the businesses at the complex. The tenants will include a number of things. Harness Cycle, as I mentioned, this indoor cycling studio. It's kind of the mothership of this whole thing. A business that's been around since 2013, and as you'll, I'm certain, or I hope you read in the loan write-up, was one of those businesses that had to survive through the COVID pandemic and come out the other side after much pivoting and very creative solutions, a lot of which was chronicled in the loan write-up that we gave you. So we have Harness Cycle, we have a yoga and dance studio, a food and beverage operator, flexible office space, and a lounge and relaxation spa. There's also going to be on-site flex childcare and workspace that'll accommodate working parents and the patrons and employees of the building's brick and mortar businesses. And lastly, the workspace will host an accelerator program dedicated to education and resource pairing for emerging brick and mortar entrepreneurs in the retail, food, and beverage and fitness sectors. The graduates of the program will be prepared with technical assistance, networking, and planning business plans to launch retail businesses in the city of Cleveland, again, creating economic growth and jobs within for the benefit of not only city of Cleveland, but by Cuyahoga County. I neglected to mention that with us today is the owner of Harness Collective and Harness Cycle, Ms. Ann Hartnett. She's the president and owner of these enterprises and is the lead in effectuating and putting together this plan of new business pivot and the launching of what I just described.
Good morning.
Hello, Ann. Sorry to, yeah. So, and I am, by the way, I'm in place of, or working in place of Bob Flato, who worked most of this loan together. Unfortunately, he's on medical leave. So I'm standing in and sort of being the loan officer on this thing. So I'm going to rely greatly on Ann in terms of certain questions that I can't answer that she's right here at the ready for. So there's a picture of the Vitrolite building, the front facade, gorgeous. It is an historic building. Looking it was a 1900 building, and it was occupied by a Chicago-based company, Vitrolite, and they did glass products and so on, and used, it was one of those industrial buildings and office and warehouse buildings that affords a great, a lot of opportunity for reuse. It's got very heavy floors with, and high spaces, and it's a very attractive building, and both inside and out. The lineup of tenants, if you will, in the building, some of which will be, again, in-house kind of companies that are associated with Harness, and then other arm's length companies. The lineup is over there on the upper right-hand corner: Harness Cycle, Harness Collective, Feel Good Movement, Sunday Spa, Patron Saint, and Seoul Yoga. And how is this pronounced? And is it just VIVVI? Stay in
Vivi.
play? Vivi, it is Vivi. Okay,
Vivi,
great.
short for Vivian.
Okay, great. So, and off on the right-hand side near the bottom is, again, some image representations, some of the square footage footages on the tenancies that'll be in the building. As far as the overall financing goes, this is in this uses and sources statement. We have on the left side the great portion of this this effort is going to be the purchase of the building, which is owned, by the way, by Intermuseum Conservation Association, ICA, a nonprofit that's owned it for 20 years. The column shows the renovation estimates, the FF&E, the soft costs, working capital, contingencies, and so on, to get us a project total of $2.8 million. On the right-hand side of the sources that are going into this package, there's equity. There is a first mortgage that is being lent, an SBA 504 loan, backed loan by Huntington Bank for the purchase of the building, and a few sundry other things. And then there we are at 485. Two City of Cleveland loans, one which emanates from EDA payback sources that they have, their Title IX, a loan program of $500,000 for this project, and then another City of Cleveland loan that's from another sort of pocket of the Economic Development Department, $146,000, 700. So there's your total uses and sources. The loan that we're providing, if approved, of 485 will be from our place-based mixed use program. This project is a great fit for this product, and our loan proceeds will be used toward the project's renovation activity and costs, and also soft costs, and possibly one or two other items, contingencies, things like that. So these are pretty hard and fast numbers, but there may be a little bit of movement on some of them. So that's where our money will be going. So to round this out, the Huntington Bank loan, again, is an SBA 504 guaranteed loan in that $1.5 million amount. It's going to be for a 25-year term at prime plus 2.5% for the acquisition. City of Cleveland being in there on these two counts, one for the $500,000 on the first one, the 25-year term. Again, we're all of us are doing some forbearance in the early months. In this case, 6 months, interest only, and then amortizing after that. The second City of Cleveland loan is, again, first year is some zero interest sort of helpfulness, and then a fully amortizing loan for the remaining 14 years. On our score, we're doing a 3% loan. It will be a 15-year term. We are going to allow for quarterly interest-only payments in the first year during construction and lease-up, and then the remaining 14 years will be fully amortizing on monthly debt service payments. This loan does not have any forgiveness factor. The security and collateral on our loan will be, first and foremost, we will take a subordinate position behind the primary bank, a mortgage position, and it will be a second lien position that will be a shared position with the City of Cleveland, pari passu, on that real estate, and also assignment of leases and rents, and a UCC filing on furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. And then backing this up will be a personal guarantee by Ms. Hardnett, and also corporate guarantees from the respective LLCs, Harness Collective LLC and Harness Cycle LLC. Again, it may be a little difficult to decipher all of the numbers, or whatever, but these are a couple of floors of the floor plan to just give you an indication of the fit plan for these various uses. And again, Ann can go into this in greater detail. And then off to the side is the actual line-by-line construction budget that gets us to that $2.8 million. The result from our required economic development job standpoint, this is kind of a 2-year picture. Of course, you all know our loans typically run with we require jobs new to Cuyahoga County jobs be created within a 3-year period. So this is kind of a blend of year 1 and 2. This should be the picture where things stand at the end of year 2. What will be generated will be, sort of a head count of 79, a series of full and part-time jobs and that sort of thing. And then when we take that to an FTE category or formula, we get a full 32 full-time equivalent jobs in this mix of businesses and users, which is great. It does exceed our formula in terms of the amount of money that we'll lend per job created. So this well exceeds that. This is just one. Your packet that was sent to you has a more full-throated sort of set of documents and financials on this thing, but I'm just giving a representation of the two key illustrations. One is the real estate pro forma. So again, this is in effect, this is a real estate project juxtaposed against a business that's growing its business and its headquarters. So here you see the cash flow analysis of the real estate for the first 5 years. These are numbers that have been digested by Huntington Bank, by the city of Cleveland. Oh, I'm sorry. And then ourselves. So these are consistent numbers that have been run through the respective lenders for this project. What we have at the bottom is an illustration of coverage, the coverage ratio that based on these numbers does exceed if you'll recall, our 1.2 kind of minimum coverage ratio that we've got to have in terms of net operating income that's available for the debt service that it would have to service. So there's what we see is a coverage ratio that's within our bounds of viability and lendable from our standpoint in our program. Now, as I said, the other dynamic here is the actual business itself, Harness Cycle. And so what we provided was and again, this is just one page, kind of the key page of the profit and loss statement of Harness Cycle. That I think the key number, when you get down to it, is about 2/3 of the way down, where we're looking at net operating income for the business. And I guess one way we look at it is, as we look at the cash flow and NOI from the property, which looks to be satisfactory to cover our loan and the other loan debt service. There is also net operating income. We should look at this as a business. We look at things this way when we're lending to a business expansion, if you will. And so there is that NOI, or I guess I would also define it as EBITDA, for purposes of what kind of cash is available for things like debt service. That are the basics of this project and the loan deal that we've constructed. I think I will, if the chair will allow, I'll have Ann Hartnett sort of come in and just sort of describe in more detailed ways the business endeavor and this project that is launching their new life, and to go through sort of the programmatic aspect of Harness and what they're doing. So Ian, if you want to try to put your screen up and
Thanks, Mike. I think you'll need to take yours down and then I can share. Yeah. Yep.
sorry about that. I gotta find out where. All right, how do I get share off of here?
Basic. Do you want me to email you it's not letting me share.
No, it's not going to with me in the way.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Ricky, can you get this off? Or Sylvia? Sorry about that, folks.
Sorry, you're not sharing anymore, Mike, and you should be able to share. I have all the permissions set for you to do so.
Okay.
Are you sure I'm not sharing? Okay.
Yeah, I think you're still.
I think I am.
Nope, you were sharing for a moment there, so I would try one more time.
Yeah, it looks like it's only letting me do a whiteboard, but not a file.
You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna leave and come back.
In the meantime, I'm just going to email the group while we're trying to figure out, just so I can get started. Jeff, are you the host at the meeting?
I am not the host.
Okay.
Ricky, are you the host?
Yeah, me and Sylvia. How can I help?
Oh, I was just going to say, should I email you and you can share it, because it's not permitting me to.
Yeah, you can send it to either Mike or Sylvia, and they'll get it to me.
Okay. Okay, Sylvia, I just sent that to you. I'll wait till Mike comes back on the line before I start. Should I wait for Mike or should I just begin? Oh, hi, Mike, you're back.
Yeah, he just came on in.
Okay, so Sylvia, whenever you get that, if you want to throw that up on the screen and I'll use it, but I can speak without the slides. Hi, thanks for your patience. Technical. My name is Ann Hartnett. I'm the founder of Harness Cycle. We have been an indoor cycling studio with 2 locations. We started in the one door east of the building we're talking about today in Ohio City. And that was 9 years ago. We opened a second location in downtown Cleveland in 2017. Since our inception, I am the sole founder and owner. But when I say our, this has always been a sum of community, employees, and a lot of passion. So I rarely say I, because I never would have gotten this far alone. So since our inception, we have done over $5 million in revenue in the city of Cleveland. And as a brick and mortar, a lot of that revenue goes towards jobs, and over $1 million of that has gone towards payroll for primarily city of Cleveland residents and 100% Cuyahoga County. I realized very early on in my business that I really had created 2 businesses. One was Harness Cycle, which was a vibrant, active culture that started to change the fabric of the corridor of Ohio City that we're located in. When I signed the lease for our storefront, it was dilapidated. It was should have been condemned. And I, on a leap of faith and a vision, signed a lease at $9 a square foot. What I realized in about a year was, after I was getting calls just about weekly from developers recruiting Harness Cycle to come to their projects, I realized that the second business I had created was driving market value. So the amount of traffic and energy and culture and the type of customers that we were bringing to the neighborhood was driving market value. Show you perfect timing. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is a graph here looking at market value of the transformation that we saw from when I signed my lease in 2013 on West 29th in Detroit. I signed a lease at $9 a square foot. Market rate currently is $35 a square foot. You'll see in my pro forma, that's not what I'm charging to local operators because it's really not sustainable. So as the years went on, I started realizing that part of the mission of our business is not only health and wellness, but it's community neighborhood development. So as we look to expand, and even when we went into downtown Cleveland, we chose an area that we felt could change its culture and have a neighborhood feel. And so in doing so, that means we're always probably going to be going into areas that are under market value. And so if we're going to have an impact on what you're seeing here is quite a spike in market value, we should have equity in those neighborhoods and in those buildings, which is pretty rare for brick and mortar businesses. So I'm sitting here with you today as a 9-year small business operator. But I would say for the last 8 years, I've been really trying to learn the other side as a landlord, as a developer. I have an MBA from St. Bonaventure University. I was a business consultant. I didn't open Harness Cycle because I was a fitness entrepreneur. I opened Harness Cycle because Cleveland runs deep in my veins. My dad was one of the founding engineers for the Higley Company. And since about 6 years old, I've been staring at vacant buildings in the city of Cleveland, reimagining what they could be. And so Harness Cycle came to be because I have a passion for reimagining Cleveland. I'm an entrepreneur. I have business acumen, and I have a passion for bringing people together in our communities, in our neighborhoods. So I started the path much before the pandemic in exploring what it would look like for my business to be an owner occupant. We've actually since pivoted to the SBA 7A, but the 504 was the first loan product that became appealing to me as an owner occupant. And I learned how much equity we could be building by writing our checks every month, which, by the way, I've never missed a single rent payment, even throughout the 2.5 years of loan closure or a debt payment. And so I started learning how much equity would I have had if the footprint I had in this building at 2901 Detroit Ave, those checks had been going to a mortgage lender instead of my landlord. And I wish I didn't know that number at the height of the pandemic, because if I had been writing a check to a mortgage lender instead of my landlord, I would be sitting on $500,000 in equity by doing nothing different than just who that payment was going to. And so that really solidified in my mind the value we could be creating for ourselves in the business, not only creating jobs and revenue and taxes for the city and the county, but we could also be generating equity. If you want to move to the next slide. So I'll speak a little bit about the project, but one more thing I just want to mention in terms of my readiness for this project. I come to you and I think if you haven't heard of Harness Cycle before, but I often get championed as a face of small business in Cleveland. And while I love that, and I'm so proud to have been a small business owner, I am very equipped and prepared to also be a developer in the city and a landlord. My husband, who is now a Cleveland firefighter, he started his career at a key bank in finance. And together we've developed 3 residential properties in the city of Cleveland, and we've built out and designed 2 fitness studios. He's a licensed general contractor in the city. Every firefighter moonlights, that's his. I have business acumen. In the height of the pandemic, of course, we had to close. We are a fitness operator, 30 to 50 bodies sweating in a room. It was not appropriate to be open. So 3 days before the governor even mandated it, I voluntarily closed my doors and said, we are going to close for 30 days and we will pivot to digital. So I was really never caught on my heels. I definitely thought it wasn't going to be 2.5 years, but the multitude of pivots, I think, shows my ability to overcome obstacles and adversity. And again, never missing a rent or debt payment throughout that time. This is also where I kind of cut my teeth as a landlord. So one of my solutions in July of 2020, after I realized digital was going to be our path for quite some time, was I contacted Lululemon Athletica. They are an international athletic brand based out of Vancouver. And I had a relationship with them because I'd been selling their clothing for 6 years. I knew that they were seeking a temporary location to explore the Cleveland market. And so I called their agile leasing team and I said, hey, this is crazy. I'm sure you're not signing leases with the pandemic spiking, but by chance, if you're interested in looking at my storefront, I'd be curious if you'd want to sublease it from me. They came out, they measured. I had offered 3 months and they countered with 12 months. So this was a huge success for me to have a 12-month rental. I charged double what I pay because we had to cover other debt expenses aside from rent. And it was my first really experience in working with a large tenant, a national tenant, and operating as a landlord. So I feel prepared through a multitude of experiences over the last 9 years to emerge as a developer post-pandemic. So what I'm looking at in terms of operators for this building is not hypothetical. We have half of our leases signed. We've been working diligently with these operators on their pro formas. And so oftentimes, and I've been working on this deal for quite some time, and I can speak to the challenges, and I'm very aware of the risk I think a lot of lenders have felt on this deal. But I'm not going to sell you hypotheticals. This is what these tenants that are local operators can pay. We've been in the weeds with their pro formas. Harness Collective, not only as a landlord, but we're a small business coach. We're opening up playbook, showing everyone that we're working with what has been successful for us over the last 9 years, how we have created $5 million in revenue in 3,000 square feet. And so I know that their numbers are fair. I know that their rent is fair, and they're going to be able to make the rent payments every month, just as I have. So our anchor tenant is Harness Cycle. Again, we are a indoor cycling studio. We've pivoted to hybrid. So we also now do bike rentals, and we film digital classes. So should we see a spike or, God forbid, a closure again, we can immediately pivot to 100% digital. So we have this now hybrid model coming out of the pandemic. We have Patron Saint, which is our food and bev operator. The owner of Patron Saint is a Cleveland resident. She was born in Lakewood. She went to Cornell School of Hospitality, worked her way through New York City, Brooklyn, Hudson Valley, learning the industry, and has come back to Cleveland to open her first restaurant. Seoul Yoga is owned by Yolanda Rosenthal Green. She's been a yoga instructor for 20 years in the city of Cleveland. She is well-renowned. She actually traveled internationally with Melissa Etheridge, if you know that musician. And this is her first endeavor in operating her own yoga studio. She has a mission in centering Black voices. Her staff of instructors will be predominantly Black women and men. And this is something that is very unique in the yoga industry, which is a predominantly white, affluent community. If you want to move to the next slide. We'll have a co-working space. It will also serve as a workspace, and as Mike spoke to, our accelerator program. So aside from our tenants, in September, we will be launching our first cohort of 10 aspiring brick and mortar entrepreneurs. And this was an intentional plan for us. We have every management guideline, operating plan, SOPs, but this was a conscious decision not to expand Harness Cycle again, but take our playbook and apply it to other entrepreneurs. So we plan to stay anchored in this building and focus not on expanding Harness Cycle, but helping grow other brick and mortars that are locally owned in the city of Cleveland, and not just in Ohio City. We want to do this in working with Burton Bell Carr in the Buckeye neighborhood, Glenwood, Collinwood. We believe that what we have learned and experienced through adversity, through the pandemic, and prior to that, we can share that playbook and help aspiring brick and mortar entrepreneurs be successful from day one. So the workspace will be the home base of that accelerator program. I spoke to our hybrid offerings. There will be a digital filming studio in the basement. This will be accessible not just to Harness Cycle, but to other fitness entrepreneurs that wish to bring their classes digital. It's also a recording studio for podcasts. Some of our entrepreneurs that might want to create video content or need a space that's, not a warehouse on a Zoom call. So it'll be a filming and soundproof facility. Lastly, we'll have a personal services area in the basement. This will serve as a member's locker room, steam showers, an area to store your belongings. It will also have 3 service provider rental spaces. So we have estheticians, massage therapists that are solo entrepreneurs can rent these spaces and meet their clients in those locations. I'm going to go to the next slide. So I won't go too deeply into the financials as Mike did. Mike, thanks for doing the heavy lifting there. I wish you'd been with me, this whole time going through these numbers. You were great and really diving in with me. We are doing a Huntington Bank SBA 7A loan. Huntington is the lender on the asset, so they will be taking first position and will be lending against the building. The proposed lending for our leasehold improvements, our working capital, furniture and fixtures is from the loans that Mike spoke to about the county's proposed loan, and then the city of Cleveland, which has been approved as of Monday this week. City Council unanimously approved that loan. Job creation within year one will be 30 full-time equivalents. We expect by year three a guaranteed 32 full-time equivalents. And our net operating income after debt service, just on the base rents, will be $101,000 annually. When I spoke to that we will be working with these tenants, we will be also charging based on the hours worked, a percentage of sales. So not reflected in this pro forma, because it's very much not determined, is a percentage of sales for each entity's revenue. So that will range anywhere from 5 to 12% of revenue will be additional income for Harness Collective. Of course, that can't be noted here because it is not built. Those are management agreements. That's not built into leases or the pro forma. These pro formas are their base rent, and they will be starting those rent payments within 3 months of loan closing. If you want to move to the next slide. So just a brief overview of the timeline. We plan to close should this loan get approved. This is our final step in our capital stack. We are slated to close early next week. Huntington is comfortable closing upon this approval, as well as the commitment letter we have from the city of Cleveland. We have permit sets ready to submit, and we will begin construction. It's pretty miraculous what a light build out this space is structurally. We're replacing all mechanical, HVAC, plumbing, electric, but other than that, it's quite cosmetic for most of the tenants other than the restaurant build out. Harness Cycle will be opening, targeted is October, and then we'll see a follow-up opening by the other entities late October, November, and likely December for the restaurant. If you want to move to the next slide. As a group representing Cuyahoga County, I'm sure you're advocates for brick and mortar. I have had to speak to some investors. Ultimately, just want to mention that bringing on investors or even a guarantor that would require equity was pushing the rent dollars up, which I believe would have really challenged this project into being even higher risk. And so that's why I sit with you today without a guarantor other than my personal assets. But this is one of the slides I spoke to often when talking to quite a few private investors who said brick and mortar is dead. We saw brick and mortar is dead during the pandemic, and it's not. It's making quite a rebound, but we're finding that it needs to be smaller footprints, and we need to see locally owned brick and mortars that create experiences. And that's very much what we're creating here at the Vitrolite Project. If you want to move to the next slide. This is our leadership team for Harness Collective. I am the founder. I'm bringing on Andrea Lochi, who has a long-standing career in marketing. She was one of the first employees for Tech Elevator. So she has a strong background in tech and startup culture. She is coming on as our CEO. So she will be overseeing day-to-day operations of the team and the tenants. And then Katrina Keeley, who's kind of been a success story. She started as our front desk and has worked her way up into director of operations. She spearheaded our B Corp accreditation, which is a very rigorous process, often related to in the food industry getting organic certification. B Corp is the kind of parallel in the business world, brick and mortar. If you want to move to the next slide. Just quickly want to mention, I have a board of advisors who work with me weekly. These are national, Caitlin is actually local counsel, but Josh McManus and Bon and Bao are mentors of mine who work with me weekly and have been mentoring me on this plan. They're nationally recognized entrepreneurs and have been really powerful in helping me come up with a really solid plan. If you want to move finally to the last slide. So just want to close with something very unique about our development project. As I mentioned, these aren't hypotheticals. We are working with locally owned. This building will not get renovated and have storefronts vacant for months on end, like we're seeing quite a bit of, especially in the Ohio City neighborhood, waiting to lease. We have signed leases. These operators will be open in 6 months or less. We are 100% women owned and operated. We're a certified B Corp. And with that comes really specific diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Our living wage for our brand and all the brands is $15.40 an hour. So that means from our front desk staff to those cleaning the towel service, we'll get a minimum wage of $15.40 an hour. And we really believe in creating a neighborhood experience that's for the whole family. So from our children's stay and play to the offerings we'll have in the workspace and the cafe, this is really a project that will meet needs around all ages in the neighborhood. I'll just tell one quick story. As I was meeting the city, Vaughn, this was the first time I met Vaughn and the Cleveland administration. Probably about 6 weeks ago, I called my broker who had just won the award for CBRE last year's #1 commercial real estate broker in Northeast Ohio. And I said, hey, I'm walking into this meeting. I just would like some anecdotal data. Congrats on winning the award last year for #1 broker in Northeast Ohio. Curious, of your deals last year, how many of your buyers were women? And he said 0. He said, in my 17-year career, I've worked with 1 female buyer, and she was 30% owner with 2 men. So Suzanne, who's on the call here, we were at a panel yesterday, and there were 70 women. It was crew, commercial real estate and women at the Area International in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood. And I was on the panel and I said, raise your hand, how many of you work in commercial real estate? And of course, that's what this networking group is. So everyone raises their hand, bankers, lawyers, brokers. And I said, how many of you own commercial real estate? And in that room of 70 people, 1 woman raised her hand. So I just want to thank you for considering this project. I think it's an amazing opportunity to have a private and public partnership, taking a risk on a female owner operator, and I really hope I have your support.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate all the great detail, and your enthusiasm is infectious, obviously. Thanks, Sylvia, for shrinking down the share screen. I like to see everybody's face as we kind of get into some questions and dialogue. I've got a number of them, and this board, just for your own benefit, and is made up of a number of different professional disciplines. So we might have questions coming from a few different angles, but I happen to be in banking, so you can guess where my questions might be coming from. The first one, just in the interest of time and kind of cutting to the chase, a closing next week. I've reviewed financial statements for, and if you're not speaking, maybe go on mute. That'd be great. The sources and uses of this project requires $170,000 in equity going in. I'm curious as to know what the sources of that funding is.
Of the owner equity?
Yes.
So 70 of that has already actually been paid to the seller. That was a requirement to go 10 months. This has been quite a long closing for them. So the seller actually already has 70 of our earnest money. One of my pivots, one of several pivots throughout the pandemic was we turned our offices into 2 Airbnbs, and those are above our fitness studio that was at 2901 Detroit Ave. So those have actually generated each $80,000 in revenue, and they're very low cost to operate. I'm still a tenant of 2901, the same storefront that Lululemon leased from us. They ended their lease in September of 2021. And since that time, I've leased it to 2 local operators. Those 2 tenants are really my pilot for the accelerator program. They both sublease those spaces from me. And because I coach them and consult them, I take 8% of their monthly sales. And so those monthly sales are generating revenue. We've generated revenue from our digital platform, bike rentals, bike sales. And in January through just Memorial Day weekend, we launched a pop-up studio in Saucy Brewworks location. I think County was a lender on that project. They're preparing to expand their brewing operations. And so there was a small window where we were able to pop up and create kind of a shell of a studio. So we had some revenue from January through February as well.
So where is that $100,000 in addition to the 70 you've already given them? Where's that sitting today? Is that in an account? Because that typically go and who owns that account?
I do.
But it's not in your personal statement, right?
It's not in my personal statement. No, it's in our business statements.
Of the harness, the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I switching to that. I'm not too sure I see that in there through April, but you owe $1.3 million in the cycle shop.
So,
and you have assets of about 400,000, which creates a pretty big deficit net worth. Sizable, it's $900,000 deficit net worth. And currently, with the information we have, the operations aren't profitable. So I'm curious as to know how you project to be able to make the rent payments as the anchor tenant in this project. And I'm also curious as to know how Huntington looked at it to do their analysis, because I know from an SBA standpoint, SBA is a great facilitator of lending dollars, but the one premise that's key for getting an approval there is you got to have positive cash flow. There might be a leverage situation or a customer concentration or a collateral shortfall, and that's where they come in, but it always has to have positive cash flow. So I'm curious as to know Huntington's view on how their approval was facilitated when we don't have positive cash flow yet.
So just want to be sure I'm understanding your question is
Sure.
Why do we not have positive cash flow right now? Oh, we don't have a studio. So we've been closed since March 12th, 2020. So they did a projection-based loan based on the revenue we anticipate when we have a studio, which will be in this building.
Okay.
So the revenue we have right now is without a harness cycle. We don't have a business. So all the revenue you're seeing is due to pivots. That's due to other businesses that I've generated since March 2020. So Huntington did a projection-based loan because we don't have a business brick and mortar currently.
And just to be clear, the $1.3 million that's owed to SBA and others, but in the cycle business, is on top of the $2+ million you'll owe on this property, correct?
That's correct. So the debt payments for this project are for this building. The debt payments for Harness Cycle or that entity, we invested in our digital platform. There's quite a bit of investment in creating a competitor to Peloton. So quite a bit of that funding was startup for our digital platform. And 400,000 of that was to keep our team on from when PPP ran out till now. And that team is the leadership team you saw that will shift their salary, will be covered not just by Harness Cycle, but the whole operation of all 6 entities.
Thanks. And any others on the phone? We could have this slick little raise your hand button here if you want to do that, or we can just chime in.
I have some questions, but
Thanks, Suzanne.
thanks for starting it out, because I'm not an operator analysis person. I'm a real estate, so I'm going to focus in that area. And I think part of the job of what I do and this group does is to protect you. So any question I ask is only in that vein. I'm not trying to be critical. In your sources and uses, I don't see any interest reserve, which would be a way of paying your interest during your build out period and lease up period. And while I understand you're pre-leased, there's going to be you set up to 3 months when they begin paying rent. So what I hear is that at least 6 months, you're not going to have income while you're doing this work and getting people in.
Mm-hmm.
So in your uses of funds, you have a working capital line item, and you have a pretty generous project contingency line item, more than I would have put in as a real estate lender. Are those, either of those, part of what you might use for your debt payments?
Yes. No, to answer your question, that is a generous contingency just due to supply chain issues right now. We wanted to make sure that we were being prudent with the costs that we're seeing kind of all over the place. Fortunately, lumber isn't one of the big expenses, but some of the mechanical, we just wanted to be prudent and make sure that we had a contingency that could cover if costs go up and down again. So I did not use I'm not using a developer, and I did not use brokers for my leasing. So Huntington is actually working to approve today that those typical fees will be seen as equity at time of closure, which is valued at $96,000 and some change. And so they are increasing the loan slightly to include that, what would be considered working capital. And so at closing, I actually will be able to retain what would have been the remainder of our earnest or our down payment equity. I'll be able to retain that cash because Huntington is viewing what we typically would be paying for a developer lease up hold and the acquisition fee, again, which totals around $96,000 as my equity.
And how will you pay the interest only payments?
I'm planning to use that capital.
This line item. Okay, the 96,000 do you equate that with this working capital line item of 100,000?
No, that's not shown here
Okay.
on the sources and uses because it was still pending approval from Huntington, but as of yesterday, they have approved that. So that's an additional 96 of working capital.
And then to Jeff's question, how will you pay your own rent as a 38% occupant of this building? So I hear you saying 96,000 would support the debt service, which is for that interest only period, a little more than that for a year, but half of that covers that for half a year till you get rent. But how will you pay your own rent?
Through operations.
And
Each entity has their own operations and pro forma that will support rent payments.
So I'm going to shift now to the cash flow statement, which I want to tell you, very nice job. And I appreciated the commentary in the as complete value of 2.7 you think the real estate value is 3.5. I actually got very similar numbers when I figured it on a cash flow basis. So thank you for doing that so nicely. Do your rent numbers include utilities that tenants will be paying that on their own? Or is that just not in here because they will be directly billed? I'm just trying to understand the utilities here.
It's triple net leases, so that's just base rent. Tenants will be paying their pro rata share of utilities, taxes, and common area maintenance.
So you're just not including it because you'll do a billing to them. They won't be sub-metered. You'll pay it and then they'll pay you.
It depends on the utility. Electric is sub-metered, water will be pro rata share. It depends on the utility.
Okay. And my last question is on that management fee. Do you have a management company, or is this a fee to you that maybe you're counting as the consulting fee, whatever?
Harness Collective is the management company.
Okay, so I know you said you get a percent rents. Will you be getting percent rents above this, or is that kind of a way of showing? I guess I'm trying to understand. I know you didn't calculate those percent rents because there's nothing solid to base that on, but you will actually collect the 6% through cash flow.
The 6% is 6% of rent. So what's in the leaseholds. What I mentioned that's not shown is through management agreements with each entity. So currently, my two tenants that I have subleasing from me, we charge 8% of their sales, which roughly is about $1,000 additional per month for those tenants. So depending on how much we're engaged with the tenant, we'll charge anywhere from 8% to 12% of sales. I'm sure you can speak to this, but none of the banks really wanted to see that on the pro forma because it's quite arbitrary, but it is an additional margin that will be seen in our relationships.
Okay. And just for the edification of this group, I did a pretty heavy shock test on the cash flow, not knowing how utilities for sure were being handled and all that. And I think in stabilization, it'll still be a 135 debt service coverage, including all debt, for anyone who was also trying to figure that out. Thanks so much, Ann. Like Jeff, I appreciate your enthusiasm. And if this were 30 years ago when we did things on a handshake, I think you'd have had it done by now. So
thank you. And thank you for pressure testing it. I appreciate the challenges that in the questions you both posed as financial background. I want this to be successful. And I think that's how it's gotten to this point. I'm an operator, so I'm going to put realistic numbers for what local entrepreneurs can support and pay. But I also needed this whole project to work. And so all the no's I got over the last 9 months pushed me further to tighten the deal, figure out the numbers. And so thank you for both of your questions.
Any other questions from our team here?
Jeff, you and Suzanne have really delved into my question, which was around the working capital. But I just want to also thank you, Anna, and as I guess I would call myself a part-time developer, doing much of what you and your husband have done. One of the challenges of late has not only been the cost increases of materials, but the availability of materials and the availability, quite frankly, of contractors and subs, but particularly on materials. There's just some things that have long lead times. So this is just a suggestion, if you haven't pressure tested that already, as you look at your construction schedule, furniture and fixtures, cabinetry, et cetera, to take a look at that and make sure you get those items ordered as quickly as you possibly can, because I have had the smallest thing cause me a 3-4 week delay to a 2-month delay. Yeah,
thanks for speaking to that. So we went under contract in July of last year with the hopes to close within 3 to 4 months. Obviously, this has been a very delayed closing. So we started that sourcing process. Harness is consolidating from 2 locations. So fortunately, Harness has most of its furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It'll take some time to do the installation and the bit of build out we need. But to your point, we've been seeing lead times, for example, sound equipment was as much as 20 weeks. And so where we've had to put down payments out of just cash before these loans came through, we've done that, trying to hedge and kind of control our timelines as best we can. But we're working to select what is delayed and make changes in design to see that we can stay on track with timeline. But it certainly is an issue, and we don't really have the luxury of waiting on those items. So we're trying to design engineer what we can source and be creative with what we can get so we can stay on track with timeline.
Good morning. This is Michael Obi. Thank you again for a great presentation. Commend you for being a true entrepreneur and also branching into a project like this. Just want to make sure I'm clear. Do you have commitment letter or term sheet from Huntington Bank that this deal has been approved by Huntington Bank?
I do, yes.
Okay.
They're contingent on the city's commitment letter as well as the county's commitment letter. So of course they didn't want to lend me for the asset and then I'm paying and sitting on an asset I can't do anything with. So the requirement for Huntington to close, which they're prepared to do as soon as we have commitment letters, is the county loan and the city loan.
Okay, and then the city, you said the city has been fully approved?
Yes, I have a signed commitment letter from the city of Cleveland.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michael. Any other questions?
I don't have a question as much as a comment. Hello, Anne. It appears from your tenant mix that, we're, COVID to kick up again and operations have to change. It almost appears that they all have the ability to pivot in their operations too. It's just an observation based on the types of tenants you selected. And I didn't know if that was intentional or if maybe that's the lens we all look through nowadays, having lived through life pivoting. Just more of an observation.
Yeah, correct. That was really important in the design of that basement studio that will be available to all the tenants to move digitally, whether they are filming for live stream or they're filming content to put on a website where it can be on demand. But even the co-working space that's going to have coaching programs and groups, that filming space can be used for recording content. So my accelerator program, which is really business content, business coaching, the hope is to move a lot of that curriculum online and can scale well beyond Cleveland. So that filming location very much so was a product of experience. We don't have like digital anything in our spin studio. I've always been like very analog. Like this is when you put your phone down and you go in the room and turn it all off. And of course, the pandemic forced us all to embrace Zoom and technology. So we're trying to do it in a way that supports the business, but still we have these spaces when we can be together that are what I like to call analog.
Thanks, Susan. Vaughn, is that your hand up?
It is.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Jeff. I just wanted to add something that maybe Ann and maybe the group is not aware of that could potentially assist on the expense side. The county has a program called Skill Up. We call it Skill Up 2.0. And as Harness Cycle and the other tenants look to grow their businesses by upskilling their workers, Skill Up 2.0 will reimburse the cost of that training that they incur. 50% of that cost is guaranteed to be reimbursed by the county Skill Up program. So as Harness Cycle looks to add additional staff and the other tenants look to add additional staff, if they become clients of Skill Up 2.0, one of the financial incentives is a 50% reimbursement of the training costs. Then there's other levels of incentives as well that could significantly offset some of the cost of training. So that's not in the write-up, but I wanted to mention that there's something that Ann and the other tenants could definitely take advantage of.
Thank you. I did not know about that program, and we have significant costs every year to our certifications.
Yes.
On average, it's about $5,000 per instructor. So that's tremendous. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, so Skill Up would reimburse 50% of that. And then if there's a post-training wage increase, there is a $500 for every $1 of post-training wage increase, there's another $500 reimbursement. And then there's also a $500 reimbursement where there's a credential that's actually split between the company and the staff member that receives a credential. So there's some significant incentives there that can help offset those costs, Ann.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Sure.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ann prior to going into an executive session? Okay, I see your heads nodding horizontally. I'm going to take a motion to go into exec, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Matt and Brian. I see a second. Thank you, sir. This is by roll to go in. So I'm going to go in my screen order here. So be ready. Suzanne?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Michael Obi?
Yes.
Thank you. I believe that's it from a trustee standpoint. Okay, Ricky, I'll turn it over to you to facilitate, or Michael, however we do that.
Ricky, he will,
Richie, thank you.
Yep, just
We'll
give
be
me one
back.
second.
We'll be as brief as we can, especially in the interest of having another presentation as well. So hang tight. Are we all back? Can I confirm that?
Yes, confirm.
Okay, can we not share this
Yep,
screen
I'm
so I
about
can
to
see
stop
everybody?
that too. Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I know you're one step ahead of me. Apologize for my impatience.
You're fine.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for the slight delay there.
So
folks.
sorry to be a nerd about this, but the live stream is not live yet.
Okay, no, let's,
I'm sure Ricky's fixing that right now.
should we wait?
It's supposed to be live when the vote is taken.
Okay, well, we will certainly wait then. Michael May, you're on mute.
Paul's right. Yeah, we've got to wait until we're
Okay, let's
absolutely
just
live.
wait. Let's just wait for the cue.
So I am showing that it is live. Just remember that there is a delay. So while you guys don't see that yet, it is being streamed and recorded. So everything I'm saying is showing that it's live.
I trust Ricky.
I believe Ricky. Yes.
I see the red light blinking. It says recording.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's another thing that we're recording as well.
Yep.
Thank you all. Let's progress in the interest of time and out of respect for everybody's time. Seeking a motion for approval as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? I don't believe so. We don't have any Huntington bankers here, right? No, good. Congrats, you're all set from the county's perspective. Good luck. There's a lot of uncertainty, but I'm certain you will navigate those waters perfectly, and you've got our support.
Thank you so much. For some reason, I can't start my video, but I wish you could see my face because, oh, there we go.
I'm usually the other way around where I wish you couldn't see my face, but thank you.
Yeah, that's where the math. Really appreciate all of your support. I know you have to really look at the big picture on this one, and I appreciate you doing so. Hope to see you all there at some of our openings. We'll be sure to get you all invites.
Thank you.
Please do.
Thank you.
Mr. Stella, I think we're on to your deal, right, sir?
Okay. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Ann. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ann.
We up? We good? Kat, your vocal's not working. Michael, what was your issue? You were silent earlier.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. Perfect.
There we go. Yeah, you got to get a drop down and start fixing your speakers. So
Yeah, we usually work on Teams, so it defaults to the right microphones.
That's
no, and I just every deal is important. Every deal deserves the same amount of airtime. My strong ask is just to be concise, just out of respect of everybody's time here, and we will certainly move forward.
Sure. Let me
assume we've read the deck.
Yeah. Yes. Excellent point, Brian.
Assume we've read it.
Okay. Am I sharing my screen right now?
Not yet.
Okay. Is it coming up on everyone's screen?
It is not.
No.
Why doesn't it?
Well, we certainly have the package if you want to verbally.
Yep, I'll just kind of go through it. I'm sorry, it's not coming up.
Can you send a copy of it to Ricky?
There we go.
There you go.
Yep. Whoa, there you go.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Anthony. There you go.
We good?
We still can't hear you.
You still have volume problems. You're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
You guys still, can you hear me now?
Can you
I
guys
can hear-
hear me?
Yeah, you're
I can hear
good.
you now,
Tony, you're
yes.
good. Ricky, you're
Okay,
good.
I can't
Yep.
see my presentation, so
Yep.
I'm just gonna go through it.
It's fine.
We have today Kim Kimlin with the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corp is in the meeting. Kamala Lewis was in, she had to jump out
Yes.
because she had another meeting. So this building, it's a currently vacant building. It was previously a car dealership. It's at 12550 Euclid Avenue, directly across the street from the Circle East Townhomes. That was an investment made back in 2011, 23,000 square foot building, and it's less than a mile from the edge of University Circle. So kind of go through, it's a $3.5 million project. They'll be injecting $525,000 into the building. They're seeking ARPA funds from County Council, and amount of $300,000. Jobs Ohio has verbally committed $1.5 million to the project. These are all pretty much grant funds, other than we're the only debt that will be in this stack. We are looking at a loan of $950,000. And Cuyahoga County, through the community development, are looking at a $50,000 grant, and then another small $50,000 grant from T-Mobile, and there will be a deferred developer fee of just over $155,000. So they're looking to renovate this building. It's a historic Art Deco building. Looking to make some improvements to attract office tenants in the eds and meds space, building off of the location close to University Circle. And they are currently in negotiations for about 10,000 square feet of space from a biotech building. It's still, the tenant is still confidential. So through the project, they are looking to create 33 jobs with a payroll of 2.6 million. That's through the tenants in the building. As part of this project, the land bank, they're taking a holistic look at this entire neighborhood. They're looking to do some new single-family home construction in the immediate neighborhood, which has seen disinvestment, as we all know, over the last few decades. So they're looking to construct up to about 250 new homes in the area, attracting moderate and middle income residents to the city. But this project is going to stand on its own. They're going forward with this project on the Mickey's building. They're fully committed to renovating and leasing the building. And as I stated, they're already in negotiations for 10,000 square feet of space. And I can't put it up on the screen, but everybody has the deck. Being we're the only debt in the deal, we are looking at doing a $950,000 loan at 3% interest, fully amortized over 15 years. So the annual debt service is $78,726 to be exact. And there's a potential of forgiveness on this loan of up to 25% after 3 years if they hit the job creation goals and that the project is complete. Looking at the pro forma analysis on all of the space, I ran it through our spreadsheet, and we were looking at debt coverage from anywhere from about 1.43 to 1.7. And that's looking, once up and operating, We have looking at operating vacancy of 7.5%. In the first 2 years, the vacancy, I think they're looking at a 30% within the first year and a 15% in the second year. I didn't include them in the pro forma because they've accounted for it in the overall project cost. They've included a cost for those expenses. It's kind of taking it forward a little more. So yeah, we're above the county's requirement of 1.2 on the debt service coverage. They've currently ordered an appraisal for the building, and we will be the only debt on the building. We're assuming we'll be at that 90% or less on the loan to value, but we will we'll also, that'll be a contingency of closing. And that's pretty much what I have if we're sort of keeping it brief. And I haven't been able to get the video to work here.
That's okay.
I can invite Kim to come on if there's anything additional that I missed that she'd like to say about the project or about the county land bank, or if there's anything she'd like to add at all. Or I think Kamla might be back in. So if either whoever's here, if there's anything additional they'd like to point out or anything I've missed, I invite them to do so now.
Okay, I don't know if Kamla is still on. It looks like she is, but I'm not. I think she was en route to.
Yep. Okay, that's fine.
Go to. So, yes, I just want to add that we are getting a lot of support from Jobs Ohio and from Team NEO. Jobs Ohio has verbally committed $1.5 million, and they're willing to put that into the early stages of this project. They are also assisting us with outreach to finding tenants. And in fact, the potential tenant that Anthony mentioned is one that the Team NEO brought to us. Jobs Ohio has asked that we not disclose the particulars of that yet because they're still negotiating. But it would be a great opportunity to lease 10,000 square feet of the building.
Okay. I just had a quick thank you, Kim. And I don't know if this is best directed to you, but I kind of flipped candidly, admittedly, to the audit of the land bank in the back here. It was very valuable. That's where the bankers go. But this is fund accounting, which is not, predominantly out there in businesses, right? This is more like not-for-profits, et cetera. Could you just walk us through them on page 9? It's assets, liability, and net position.
Okay, yeah, let me pull that up. I don't have
That's fine. There's while you're doing that, I'll just verbally summarize my question. So under the assets, there's equity in pooled cash and cash equivalents. And then in the net position, there's unrestricted and one's $20 million up above, the other one's $17 million below. So is that like true cash in accounts?
Yes.
Okay. And then the uses of that don't have any. $17 million of those dollars aren't restricted. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So from a repayment risk standpoint, this is pretty intense liquidity here, just for the benefit of those on the call here, and with very little, if any, total net liabilities, most of which are payable. So extraordinarily healthy financial position. I guess that's a statement, not a question. So.
Yeah, and that was one of when I analyzed it, that often we don't look at nonprofits, but
right.
This is a different type of nonprofit here where they have a very strong balance sheet.
I have a couple of questions. We don't have any breakdown on the renovations and improvements. I usually would see that, only that it would answer, do they have are they including their deferred development fee in there? Because we're not going to be funding that. Do they have a contingency? Do they have debt service reserve in here, which would be, they're not, I mean, they're going to start paying 3% P&I immediately, it sounds like, so that's 80,000 a year, and just making sure that they're anticipating those costs.
Yes, if I was able to share, I could share a screen I have of a breakdown of those costs. I guess I can email those over to you, but they do have a breakdown of a lot of the expenses in there. They have a soft cost contingency of 20%.
Your thing is shared now.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can see this?
And we can hear, and we can hear you.
So
Yeah.
I am
Oh,
sharing
great.
that, just so you know. So you just need to tell me which side it's on.
Oh, it's Ricky taking care of us there.
Oh, okay.
So which slide was
So
that
what are
on?
we? It's not in the slides. It's on a separate document I have. So I don't know.
If you just
I
want to
didn't
throw
know
it on
if
your
you were-
desktop, I can pick it up.
It's showing on my desktop right now.
No, the file on your desktop.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay. It should be on my desktop, and I've saved it as Mickey's Building pro forma. It's a PDF document.
All right, 1 second. Looks like it's showing blank.
Can I ask a question of Kim while we're doing this for interest of time, just to educate, us or me on the nonprofit side of your organization? And, how do you all partner, or do you all plan to partner with, as we're looking at these neighborhoods, especially on the east side? I'm, really glad that this project is coming up on the east side of Cleveland, area that desperately needs development. Is there a collaboration you all have with some minority companies, developers? Do you all transition projects like this to other Black people of color in that area that has the means to acquire properties like this? And how do you all work? Do you all keep the portfolio of the properties forever and ever, or is there a transitionary period?
Yes, so we do work with a lot of minority contractors, both on our renovation work, and we're starting to do more and more new construction of homes in various communities. And of course, for our demolition work as well. So about 40 to 50% of our contractors are MBE, WBE contractors. So we would certainly look to engage them in this overall project, not only for the Mickey's renovation, but also for the build out of the homes that we plan to build out over the next couple of years, right adjacent to this building.
Okay, thank you. So I just gave you more time, Anthony.
Thank you. And is everybody
Thanks,
seeing
Michael.
my screen now? Rick said,
No.
sent me a note saying he would
It's okay.
share.
Oh, now it's coming. I think
Okay,
it's-
so this here, it's a breakdown of the overall costs.
Yep.
So I'm trying to kind of show it in a, let me. So they have hard cost contingencies built in of 7.5%, and they have some soft costs of 20%, and then there are some lease up reserves, and they're also they do show the developer fee there on the bottom line going across the bottom.
Right.
Does that is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, and if it's in the packet, I apologize, but otherwise it's nice to see it.
Yeah, you know what? I think I didn't end up getting this page into the packet, so that's kind of mea culpa on my part. But that's
Okay.
the whole breakdown there. I intended to add it in with their financial disclosures.
And if I might add, we didn't develop the construction estimates ourselves. We hired Cleveland Construction, and they did a very detailed analysis of the build-out costs.
Anthony or Kim, what is phase 2?
When this was created and we started out with Cleveland Construction, the idea was that we would approach this in a 2-phase build-out, where the phase 1 would be based on the response we had from CBRE. They suggested that, you know, we try to move forward with an initial build-up that would improve the marketability of the building. So included here would be primarily bringing up the stairway. There's like a ramp stairway in the back that we would bring up to code. But mostly it's about improving sort of the exterior of the building, installing windows on the first floor, and doing just a little bit of demising walls inside, but not real deep, restoring the signage on the outside of the building, things that the broker thought would, and some additional windows on the second floor, things that would kind of make it more marketable. Now, because we are already seeing tenant interest, we may not have to phase it. I mean, if we can get tenants signed up before we would even start phase 1, we may be able to just do it all at once. It's just going to depend on how the lease up goes.
Thank you.
And Jobs Ohio is willing to fund during phase 1.
Kim, just to follow on to Michael's question regarding the ownership, ultimate long-term ownership of this project, is that the intention for the land bank? And also, is there an existing portfolio of properties that is owned and operated and managed currently?
The first part of that question is that we would, if we can get this thing fully leased up and, you know, it's going great, I think we would prefer to not be the long-term owner, that we would try to find an investor who is willing to, you know, take it from us, you know, 2 to 3 years out. If not, we would just continue to own it, of course. As far as your second question, we do not own other operating commercial properties. We're primarily in the business of housing developments, single family housing development. So mostly what we do are rehab homes and build new homes and sell them. So this would really be our first foray into commercial development. And the reason we want to do this is it kind of serves as an anchor project right there on Euclid Avenue, where we want to start our larger development of single family homes. And we think there are a lot of buildings there that, you know, we have demolished, but this one is kind of special, and we thought it was a real opportunity to try to redevelop this and make it an anchor. Unlike a lot of buildings in East Cleveland, this building on the inside is actually really solid. This thing was way overbuilt, over-engineered. It has great views from the second floor. It has terrazzo floors. I mean, it needs updated, but it's a very solid building. So we really wanted to see if we could save it.
And is the thought process then to obviously do the renovation and make this kind of an anchor for the neighborhood in the event there's slow with leasing or you know, the building ultimately doesn't end up you know, being fully stabilized, that there's enough cash reserves and revenue and whatnot in the organization that would be able to carry this building in that downside kind of event?
I would say, if we can't lease it up at all, I mean, we would ultimately demolish it. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think, but if we get it partway there, we would I think we definitely want to keep it, we get part of it leased up and we decide we want to carry the rest of it. We could go that route as well because we do have reserves that we could do that with. So it would be a decision point based on how much is leased.
Okay.
So Kim,
Any other questions? Go ahead, Brian.
just following the questions of Michael and Anthony, I probably will recuse myself from voting on this because I've been involved in discussions around this property and around the area. Not that I have any economic interest one way or the other, but I'm excited that it's finally going to get done because there's been a lot of people and a lot of discussions about Mickey's as a part of East Cleveland. But I'm also disappointed, to Michael's question, that the best we might do is have some subcontractors that are minority in a community like East Cleveland, and that we couldn't attract both. We think about the deals that we looked at recently, the one we just did or the one we did last meeting for La Villa España, that we couldn't come up with a way for this to have an even larger community benefit. So might be a little bit personal on my side. So I'm just sharing this, Kim, with you and the board that, I may abstain from this one just because I've got some challenge about that, but I am excited about that and about the rest of the development that should happen there and should have happened years ago. I mean, this is really University Circle East. I mean, it's really just the railroad track separate this from University Circle, and the dichotomy of what's happened in this area versus what's happened just on the other side of the railroad tracks, even north to Glenville. It's a shame.
I'm not sure anybody, can you guys hear me? This is Kamla.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually driving right past Mickey's now. But in response to Brian's comments, I wanted to expand on what Kim said. In addition to the work with subcontractors, et cetera, we have partnered with CDA and several others regionally on their Emerging Developers program. And for those of you who are familiar with it, they provide the training and at the back end, some financial assistance to help minority developers. What's really been missing is that gap of deals. And unless you get a deal, that's not really getting you where you need to go as a developer. And so we have committed that because of the scope of what the land bank does, we will provide those opportunities. And we see this project as key to that. So it is core to the larger project that we are working on. And we are currently in negotiations with a African-American developer to do a potentially a multifamily project as part of this larger project.
Thanks, Kamala. Any other questions for Kamala or Kim? I'm going to make a recommendation that we don't need to have an executive session unless any of our trustees would recommend that we do.
Second.
Thank you. And Michael May, procedurally, that's okay, I believe?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, I will take a motion for approval for this loan as presented.
Motion.
Thank you, Suzanne. A second, please.
Second.
Thanks, Sarah and Susan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising
Hey,
your
Jeff,
hand.
I hope I'm not out of line. Motion seconded. Do we allow opportunity for comment?
Yes,
before the
we do.
vote?
Actually, technically we do, Michael. That is proper Robert's Rule of Order.
It is.
You're not out of line at all, my
No
friend.
problem. Yeah, I would like to recommend that this project, in light of what Brian said, that is very, very strategic in our community.
Yep.
That this project, we want to encourage the land bank and the leadership of this organization to seriously reach out to Black leaders, business communities, to look for opportunity to make a strong statement with this project in terms of Black firms coming together to play a significant part and really begin to transition, since this is like you are first in commercial space. So this may even not be a space you want to play in the long term, and make it begin to transition it, of course, at the market rate of whatever the price is, to some Black investors. That's kind of what Brian, I think, is talking about. We do all this construction subcontracting and give Black contractors jobs here and there, but really to transition ownership, so we can begin to build capacity in the Black business community to take on projects. And I think there's a will now in the Black business community to be involved in developing the East Side, because Black leaders and Black business people and investors have to do it. We can't keep waiting for other people to do it for Black communities. So that's kind of, I want to just make that comment in a very blunt way and direct way for the record, as we are voting for this project.
Thank you, Michael. Well said. Appreciate that. We do have a motion and a second.
Yes.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none. We do have approval. You're all set, Kamala and Kim. Congrats and good luck.
And Jeff, will
you
you
very much.
mark me as an abstention, please?
I will. Thank you, Brian. I knew you
Thank you.
stated that. My short-term memory is really not that good. And
That's
Brian,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And Mr. Obi, I'll be following up directly with you to tell you some more details of what we're working on so you can help us along. We share your commitment.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Thanks, all. Michael, anything procedurally relative to our agenda?
Oh, we do not have any other business today, Mr. Chairman, so we can
Okay.
proceed to adjournment.
I will, let's consider this meeting adjourned. Spent a lot of time today, folks. Thank you so much for your 2 hours and 19 minutes. We will try to refine this. It's for a good reason, though. We had a couple of deals, very healthy discussion. I thank you all for that. Everybody's a great contributor to this. I think we ultimately, every single time, get to the right solution. So that's fantastic. Y'all have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.